Audio recording. Video recording. Alright, this is episode 5 of Sisyphus 52. It's boiling hot in here, and I had to turn my fans off to record this video to get rid of the drone. Oh, one of them's still running. Oops. There we go. So it's boiling hot in here, and I had to turn my fans off just to get rid of the drone, and fuck. I am sweating through my makeup. This might be the most ill-conceived episode of Sisyphus 52 yet. I haven't written a script. I've had an idea for several days, but I haven't been able to get myself to even start writing it. So I'm just gonna... I've decided I was gonna turn the camera on and just talk and see where it gets me. So I recently watched Mia Mulder's video, The Best Aspect of Jordan Peterson, in which she talks about the way that the online left use language. She uses Jordan Peterson as a case study for both impenetrable jargon and accessible and open language. I'm linking the video in the description. It's a great video and I recommend it highly. And I agree with pretty much everything she says. But I want to talk about one thing in particular she said. So she talks about when she goes online and she says, hey guys, we need to be more accessible about the way that we communicate our theory. Telling people to go and read Marx and Kropotkin is asking too much.
But the response that I see to that is somewhere often in the lines of, you don't respect common people. You think that common people are stupid and you don't think they will get it. And by dumbing down the ideology, by dumbing down the discourse, we are actually helping the opposing side because our side won't actually learn as much. And I think this is bad. That's a bad take, friend. That's a bad take.
And she's right, it is a bad take. Reading philosophy, reading dense philosophical texts cannot be a prerequisite to participating in the revolution, cannot be a prerequisite to participating intelligently in politics, because reading old, outdated, and obliquely written books about philosophical theory is a hobby. Like, you don't have to read original works by philosophers in order to do philosophy. You don't need to read original works by political actors in order to do politics. You can't need to, because it's too much to ask of somebody who's already got a whole life going on. There are always going to be people who want to. Those people are great, and those people are the people who should get into it and disseminate the information that those texts contain. And we have those people, and the movement can't just be those people. It's too niche an interest. There's something Cassandra-like about the way that academic people try to communicate their ideas. We tend to put the ideas out there as thoroughly and in as well-documented a manner as possible, and then we complain when nobody reads it because it was unbearably dense. But if we want something to be something that everybody knows, then it needs to be available on as many platforms as possible, in as many forms as possible, and in the most digestible manner possible. I'm coming back around to this idea and remembering that I've pushed this rock up the hill before. This is literally the thing that I wanted to graduate and work on. I kind of forgot. I lost track. Because the grind, because the repetitive cycle of feeding myself and making rent overwhelmed my ability to think about any other part of my life in any complex way, and I lost the continuity of my politics. So I want to talk about what I was doing when I graduated from Hampshire College in 2018. Hampshire's a weird school, and one of the things about it is instead of having a conventional degree, you have a series of divisions and you choose a project, and that project is your degree. My Division 2 project, which was the second and third years of my time there, was science fiction and fantasy as a form of activism, but my Division 3 project, which is sort of like a senior thesis on steroids, was titled Mimetic Engines of Anti-Capitalism. And the purpose of the work was to take a really complicated set of philosophical ideas and communicate them in a manner that's accessible to as many people as possible. And my goal was not to make it easy. I think a mistake we often make pedagogically, a mistake we often make in education and in trying to communicate ideas is to think that we need to tell people who are not already an expert in a thing that the thing is easy to learn in order to persuade them to put in the effort. And I think that's wrong. I think that the inevitable consequence of that is that people get into it, they start learning, they hit a point where they don't understand anymore, and they think, oh, I'm stupid, and they stop. And that's not what we should be doing. What we should be doing is telling people, this thing is hard, it's complicated, it's not gonna be easy, and if you hit a point where you're confused, that's normal. And then we tell it in as simple a way as possible, in as straightforward a way as possible, but we don't try and hide the fact that it's complicated. I'm putting on the screen right now some photos of my gallery installation. It consisted of this wall, which is an explanation of the project and the ideas behind the project, and then a set of art installations that were examples of putting into practice the strategies I was talking about. But so what I wanted people to see when they looked at this wall was, I wanted them to immediately understand that what they were looking at was a complicated and messy idea that was not going to be straightforward to follow. I wanted them to get that right away. I wanted them to immediately understand that they were undertaking something difficult by beginning to read it. And then I wanted them to know exactly where to start in order to start clarifying their points of confusion. You know, if you look at every word in the title, has a color-coded line that takes you through a series of explanations of what they mean. My argument in the project is that it's not great to think of capitalism as being something that people do to people. I think that it's impossible to understand capitalism in a way that will let us effectively fight it without introducing a mimetic framework. Mimetics is the study of ideas in an evolutionary framework, and I don't think this is the only language set that you can use to deal with this concept. I think that leftist practitioners of the occult have a fantastic inroad to this in the concept of the egregore, the being created by a collective will. But the way I talked about it was I defined a mimetic species of sorts called a pactum. It was M. corporis pactum because I think taxonomy is fun. The M stands for mimetic, the corporis is embodied, and pactum is agreement. The criteria for being a pactum, pacta for plural, are that the thing you're talking about has a core text that is the document that organizes its basic organizational structure, values, and goals. And it expresses its agency in the world through the actions of participant humans. Importantly, no individual nor group of whom have total control over the behavior of the pactum. This is important, the idea that the pactum's agency can't be reduced to the agency of any individual or group within the pactum. The reason that I arrived at this weird language for the idea is because I wanted to use the word corporation. So the root corporis was in there, but that's already a word that means a thing, and one thing that I noticed that I came to believe through my work is that corporations and NGOs and governments and some churches and some clubs and colleges and every sufficiently large group of people acting collectively in a manner defined by the will of a document is more or less the same kind of thing. The differences come down mainly to what the agenda of the thing is and its scale. First and foremost, these things emerged from an evolutionary process in a mimetic landscape. And the thing you get when you use an evolutionary process to optimize a set of things is you get things that are optimized to survive and reproduce. And that is to the exclusion of all other goals. All other goals that are dissonant with those goals are bred out. Most large institutions write them out of their bylaws, and those that don't tend to fail more often. This is why I prefer the term mimetic landscape to the phrase the marketplace of ideas, because marketplace carries implications about what the outcome the system is optimizing for that I don't think are accurate. It carries implications like getting the best deal for the consumer or making the most money for the capitalist. It doesn't carry the idea of just trying to keep existing. And that's what's going on in our mimetic landscape, is we have ideas that are competing with each other just to keep existing. And the left is at a handicap there because we care about whether our ideas are right. And it's easy to buy into this simple narrative that the right idea will be the idea that wins. But the right idea is at a disadvantage because it's not the idea that was engineered exclusively to optimize its ability to survive and replicate. The right use ideas to manipulate the mimetic landscape. The left often just tries to will the landscape to be what they think it should be. And we can't. We have to play ball. The ideas that we are coming up with, the ideas that we're bringing to the table, they are ideas that have to compete not just on the level of their legitimacy as concepts. They have to compete on the level of their catchiness and on the level of whether people want to share them. And these are forces that are going to exist after capitalism ends. These forces will always be there. And as long as we're not taking them seriously, they're always going to be a vector by which hostile people can exploit and undermine the system. Good people need to take propaganda seriously. And I believe that's what Mia is calling for. We can't be purists about this. I didn't script this video because I couldn't get started on writing it, because I felt hopeless and I felt incapable of getting up and pushing that boulder one more time. So I know I didn't really talk about Sisyphus in this video, but to me this video is unambiguously in keeping with the series. Alright, this is not a well-mastered, carefully curated version of this argument. I made that in my Div 3, and I will probably make it again, and I will hopefully do better next time, because I've had people who just, won't even let me tell them about the project, and I think, it worked really well when you showed up in the physical space, but it doesn't work as a way of telling people this idea. So, help me overcome the penalty of having been honest by, taking a moment to consider sharing this video, even if you normally don't share videos. Give it a like, that really helps. Let me know in the comments if you have thoughts on any of this, if you have ideas for what kind of language would be better for reaching people who don't want to do theory, or just to say hi. I love it when people just say hi. Subscribe. I'm coming out with these videos at this rate every couple weeks, and I am going to switch the lights back to a more neutral palette. So I can show off my makeup. I was going for a kind of impressionist complementary colors thing. I think what I wound up getting was looking like I'm cosplaying as Wolverine's spandex. But yeah, I want to thank my patrons. I have a Patreon. There's going to be a link in the description where I post the scripts for these videos as I finish them. Obviously this one didn't have a script, but I posted a rough cut of the video. I post the caption files as soon as they're ready, and I post the videos a day before they go live. I want to thank my existing patrons, Chelsea Rose, Locomotia, Nicole Wooden, and Zaylee. And I want to extend a personal apology to Nicole Wooden. A personal apology is the reward for a $15 a month donation. Nicole is not a $15 a month donor, and also not in the early adopters tier, but that's because she decided to donate more than $1 a month when she got started, and I think that deserves all the rewards. So I'm sorry. And I also want to take a moment to sort of throw out a signal boost. I don't think that we need another whole video of a white person putting in their opinion on this, but Cat Black recently came out with a fantastic video about how painful it is, how upsetting it is to see how dominated by white people LeftTube is, and how little white people listen to people of color about the legitimacy of their experiences. I'm linking her video in the description. I'm also going to link to a recording of a live stream that Angie Speaks and Peter Coffin did, where they talk about and respond to the video. They talk about, working towards tangible solutions. And I'm going to link to a Discord that they launched It's called the Diverse Left Tube Incubator, where they're working towards finding leftists of color who want to make video essays and getting them resources and connecting them with skills training. I believe the hope is to raise money to actually buy people mics and cameras and the equipment to start up, because one of the prerequisites to being able to make videos is good equipment. So I joined up. The only thing I've done there is introduce myself so far, but I offered to do audio editing for people who aren't skilled in that. I'm all right at it. I would say I'm below professional level, but like a solidly competent amateur. And another thing that I really love about it is that there's no ideological bar apart from being a leftist. They're not saying certain kinds of leftists are allowed to access these resources and certain kinds aren't. They're raising voices in the movement regardless of their particular stances within the movement, and I think that's so important. All right, I've been recording for about half an hour, so I probably have 3 minutes of usable video in here. Thanks for sticking with the video to the end. Catch you next time. Bye.